Dropkick. Beast mode. Dropkick.
Stop in the name of the band!
Gravity.
I've fallen.
Dropkick.
Drop it.
Guts. Dropkick.
Spare some change?
No.
Throw time. Chimera mutants. Beaver.
The beast is almost here, and he's got some badasses to kill, pummel, and extract their mojo from, baby.
I have his mojo.
Recently, Techland invited us out to come and try out Dying Light's upcoming standalone title known only as The Beast. They were kind enough to fly us out to LA. We saw the sights, soaked in the beach, and I touched the filthy streets of Hollywood, but it was worth it for the star of George A. Romero. But amongst the many iconic spots and views, there was something that blew us away. Something so godlike, so peak, so perfect. Oh my god! Bober the Beaver. The new realm of Castor Woods has its own amazing mascot, with the wildlife area having been focused on the idea of beavers no longer managing it with dams since the outbreak. Hell, even the word castor is Latin for beaver, so maybe we'll get a zombiever? No, they said that's not happening, but hey, Bober is out there somewhere, waiting, hungering, and you guys better make a plush of that damn beaver.
We'll take 20.
But to the main focus, Rhinosaurus Rex and I got to try the game for 4 whole hours, being at a spot in the game's progress where you basically get to explore the environment for the first time. And explore we did. They really went all out at Techland with making the scenery beautiful, diverse, detailed, and more as hell, and having a diverse array of areas to go between and explore, like some forest areas, a campground, a swamp, church, dilapidated town, and more. It's honestly the most fun I've had just running around in their games in a long while. When the time was up, I was depressed because I was chomping at the bit for more of the beast. But what about it is so special? What did they improve? What is different? Is it fun? Well, let's get into that.
I'm ready.
Again, this is a standalone title built off of Dying Light 2 with Dying Light 1's protagonist, Kyle Crane.
And the fun never ends. Fuck, here we go.
So keep in mind that it is a shorter experience, but that does not detract or mean it's worse or any less awesome. In fact, it works to the game's favor immensely, seeing that there is little to no bloat. Everything you experience feels familiar, but also new in a refreshing way. From what I've played so far, I can say it feels like a healthy hybrid of elements from both the first and second games, having the densely populated map of Castor Woods being a decently sized space, with a much more diverse array of areas to kill the living and dead alike, plunder for loot, run like a scared little bitch in, or just soak in the photo op sights, offering different weather patterns, more handcrafted pieces of small bits of the areas to find, where even the lead director Timon said there are tons of well-hidden Easter eggs. I cannot wait to delve into that. But beyond the beauty and marveling at the graphic fidelity and diverse thralls of the map, there's something I'd like to focus on more.
Bober the Beaver.
Yes, but actually no.
Being the zombie guy, well, let's sink our teeth into the series' trademarks. The sexy beast that is Sonic the Hedgehog, I mean Kyle Crane, and his many victims of the zombie horde, special infected, armed humans, new variants known as the Chimeras, and the new human villain known as the Baron, all while exploring the splendor of Castor Woods. There was one main point I want to get across before any other, and now that we are past the 3 to 4 minute mark for the YouTube algorithm, I'll have some leniency. But god damn, the gore mechanics in this game have been beefed up. I spent 5 minutes just looking at how I lopped off the top part of a zombie skull and exposed their brains and cracked their jaw open as they continued to come after me. You know what? I was so awestruck that even the dev team that were right behind me were hyped at just seeing me act like a little 5-year-old looking at some toys in a toy store, with one of them even saying that all this gore I'm seeing isn't even half of what they got in store. And that's just just less than a month before saying so. It was purely fun just goofing with regular zombies, bopping them in all parts of the body to see how they react with the updated gore system. Each time I got some innards to be outwards, especially in the cranial area, I would stop to just stare even more, to the point where I forgot that these zombies are indeed violent cannibals and I flat out died. The combat is weightier and not as floaty as Dying Light 2. You really feel the impacts of each hit like the first game, and the zombies even more so depending on what you whack them with. Scrounging for weapons and mods to slap them on is just as fun as Dying Light 2, but again, now with the gorier bits, it makes it more enjoyable to be a psychopath, making the moment-to-moment gameplay phenomenal, especially with some of the action cuts of slaughtering the undead. Sometimes you get buttons prompt up and you can hit them in the head and all this other stuff. It's really cool, it's amazing. Of course, the epic return of Kyle Crane is already something to be hyped for and the main focus of the story and gameplay, especially since the dude has been hitting the genetic gym against his will. I mean, being experimented on brutally by the hands of the Baron since we last saw Crane in Dying Light the following, if you didn't pick the nuke yourself ending. This being the first time we return to a character with experience in doing some hardcore parkour and fighting the dead means that gameplay mechanics have shifted around to accommodate that. For instance, climbing and clambering no longer cost any stamina, so when you're doing those obnoxious climb puzzles, you do not have to stress about stamina management, which thank God I hated that in the beginning of Dying Light 2. The experience system is similar to DL2, where just getting kills and doing objectives and missions nets you experience points for the old skill tree, and we have the new beast points for the beast tree. Things are definitely being experimented on outside Crane's body, literally, with some cutscenes actually taking place in third person as we actually get to see his pretty and infected face mid-conversation instead of just through a third-person camera that's by how the hell do you say that name? X3? I'll just go with that. It's a bit jarring at first considering the entire history of this series having a first-person back and forth of your perspective through either Kyle or Aiden, but it makes this feel so much more cinematic and how much of an out-of-body experience it is for Kyle. I think it is well executed here so we can see the changes that Crane is going through in his journey. Like he is not himself and the stuff happening to his body is experimental, so the devs can get experimental with these kinds of elements. The skill tree this time around isn't as large as previous installments as this is supposed to be up to a 22-hour gameplay thing, with side quests and other content factored into that number. It's more direct and to the point, and hey, the dropkick is among the first things you can unlock, so that already makes early game awesomer. I didn't get to toy around with all of the skill tree with the limited time we had, and me constantly getting sidetracked at looking at the pretty scenery and the bloody guts. But I saw stuff like being able to charge your kick in order to launch zombies, so that'll be sick. And you get a whole separate beast mode skill tree. All that experimenting on Crane means he is going to be able to extract DNA from super zombies we will talk about in a minute in order to beef up his own zombie hybrid powers. Being able to charge as quickly as possible to knock zombies down, where you can learn how to pick up rocks and stuff to throw at enemies. There is a lot to get hyped for. Although I will say until you invest enough points into it, you cannot control when you go into beast mode as it fills up the meter with each hit and kill you get. So you can try to time it, but for things like hordes before boss encounters, you can end up doing what I did and end up wasting your beast mode before this monastery boss fight with the one called the Defect. It was a bit disappointing, but the devs did say it's part of the game design as it's Crane learning to control it as beast points are invested to where eventually you can choose when to unleash the beast, but it's part of the story. So like previous titles in the series, it takes some time getting your Crane to a point where he is a demolisher at any given point. So a bit of familiarity as you develop your character, but now with him coming to grips with his newfound mutations in power, while also feeling like some of Aiden Caldwell's own leaps and bounds with the inhibitors. Besides power, there is also his speed and verticality. The parkour that is half the DNA of Dying Light's core mechanics is shining through. Everything feels as it should be with this series, still fluid and rewarding for getting better at running. Depending on if you're in a city or out in the wilderness, there are always mostly clearly marked parts of the environment to climb, clamber, and dash through. You can hop in piles of leaves to break your fall, fall, or just be me and die like a dumbass trying to make a jump you cannot possibly make. There are chase sequences in the story where you're being swarmed by volatiles just like previous games that really stresses this and makes it so much fun to break a sweat purely from fear while Crane runs and alley-oops his ass off. Although one time I got lost in this linear path and got myself cornered up high and killed, but again, that's just my dumbass self.
Well, we're boned.
I will say there will be portions of levels, areas, and the such that will be a pain in the ass due to purely having to do the damn climbing puzzles. There's this part where you're in a church and you're having to climb up onto a chandelier. I didn't like it. Some vertical parkour puzzles and challenges feel still too tenuous and monotonous, where half the time I was wondering where do I go? And honestly, I was a bit miffed that it ate up some of the 4-hour time I had allotted with the game, because my enjoyment comes from the RPG elements, the parkour of going high point to high point, and the bloodshed of the undead while making weapons to do so, not dicking around on pieces of wood and hoping Kyle will choose to latch on to whatever piece of debris the game wants to cling to. Although this one part of climbing a clock tower, this right here, and having to use the hands to climb up it was pretty creative. I was lost trying to figure out how to climb until I figured it out and had an aha moment. I'm hoping there is more of the climbing section of this clock tower versus the inside of that church. Puzzles are definitely pervasive with those extension cables to get power running. If you did not like the cables and connecting them in Dying Light 2, just know there will be more of that. I think there was like 3 separate times where I had to do that. Same with the customizations of your outfit, weapons, mods, craftables, and more. It's basically just a new coat of paint on the latest version of Dying Light 2's customization system, albeit with some minor tweaks here and there. Just more chances to add weapon mods to see the gore shine more. Now, there are familiar features like safe zones that you will power on to return to for checkpoints, fast travel, and more. Dark zones return, as well as offering great supplies for day, and even some of these volatiles that are in straitjackets, adding to the mysteries of the Baron's research and how volatiles made by the nests of the undead were able to be confined and released back into the wild, or were confined from the get-go and somehow turned into volatiles, adding some flavor into the exploration and lore of what is going on. While Haran felt like bits of land scattered through a mostly torn Middle Eastern city, and Villador in towering buildings with nature slowly taking over, Castor Woods offers a microcosm of everything we are familiar with, but now a bit more nature-focused in old stone cities, swamps, and hopefully more campgrounds, even being able to follow the following and find park ranger vehicles to drive around, run over the dead, not the boss ones, and just go to town, literally and metaphorically, just to remember to keep your gas management in mind. I will say, with the map being smaller than previous installments and the roads leading to other stuff, typically, you do not get much chance to reach top speeds before you're crashing into something. It is kind of like the beginning of Dead Island 1 where you have your vehicle and you keep bumping into stuff because there's not much space to drive. It's not as bad as that, but it's close to it. But regardless, it's fun to just get some gut in your gears. We only got to see a limited space, but just within that zone that we were in, did we find tons to delve into. Even an insane asylum in the center of the map, home to level 11 zombies that would murk me for daring to enter, which makes you wonder why they had an insane asylum so close to a popular family spot, but hey, it makes the nighttime more interesting for some of the campers, eh? On the note of nighttime, I do have to say, this standalone title aced the original feeling of roaming around at night. Volatiles and specials coming out to play, nighttime feels more intense, and way more like the first game where it's returning back to the horror roots versus just zany action. It's so much more darker, I mean actual darker, it's hard to see in front of you, with a lot of the map taking place in the woods, sources of lights being more scarce, making the inevitable night chase that much more scary and thrilling. Sound cues popping off to alert you when you're being spotted by volatiles can jolt you awake. It's definitely at night where it shines the most that this was a hybrid of both games. From gameplay mechanics, vibes, writing, and fighting to also being a love letter to the franchise and fans that Techland has fostered for over a decade now. And within that decade, many of us have come to love the stories of both games. Having a continuation to Kyle Crane Crane after the cliffhanger ending of him turning into a volatile is awesome. A tragic return that sees him having been experimented on for years by the insane Baron. From what I experienced with the story, without going too much into spoiler territory, which there will be a few spoilers in terms of some of the bosses that you'll fight, but not much beyond that, and one other thing, but not too much. I'm sorry, I'm being kind of repetitive, but if you want to avoid all of that, go to this timestamp. But what we got to play was skipped ahead of about the first hour or two of the game, where you get to go out into the open world of Castor. From there, it's basically you meeting up with a woman who says you're basically fucked if you try to take on the Baron as you are now. You are too weak and you are by yourself. So the goal from here is on both to find reinforcements to take on his army of armed people and to hunt down his genetic abomination experiments that are roaming the woods known as chimeras. Not just to kill them, but extract their blood to inject yourself with their unique strains of mutations. It's important to note that these mutations are not from the virus, but something entirely man-made by the Baron's experimentations that build off of the Haran virus and the THV, all of which shows how mad the Baron is, even beyond the sinister waltz of Dying Light 2, and to show how busted Kyle Crane will be by the end of all this. He's just not going to be the same. Side note, there is a special zombie that you run into a few times that I've seen people saying that he looks like Dying Light 2's main villain, Waltz. Not 100% sure, but damn, if it is, that means this dude survived and also became an experiment under the Baron's control, or at least has something to do with the Baron. But that's up to y'all to decide on what we could possibly be seeing with the narrative. Maybe even Aiden shows up near the end and we get a team up of Kyle and Aiden. But beyond that, I experienced a few boss fights going from mission to mission. Well, that's when I wasn't getting distracted by just goofing around in Castor Woods trying to find that damn cute bastard Bober the Beaver. But the boss fights here are probably the most engaging in all of the franchise. Instead of boss fights just being introductions with cutscenes into special infected that will just keep spawning around the map from there on out, these specific bosses are one and done deals, adding to the flavor of this game and honestly the replayability, making these boss fights unique experiences, just not to be copy pasted outwards, kind of like the GRE anomalies of 2. The first of these bosses being the Reaper, which is basically the Dead Island Butcher on steroids. He is simple, but it's an effective fight of dodge, hit, and quit. The Reject, being the tank if he didn't skip leg day, is pretty fun and like a more involved Reaper fight where you dodge and hit. And my favorite moment of the entire experience of this showcase was the boss fight on the fog-ridden small island against the boss known as the Mist. This chick was insane. Obviously built off the Banshee from 2, hopping around everywhere and leaping at you, but now farting out a billowing mist, so it's a bit more difficult to see where she is choreographing her pounce, especially managing all the commons that are coming at you in the area. You can try killing the common infected to build up your beast mode and try to kill them that way, and to top off each of these high level encounters, once you get these bosses to low enough health, you can get a prompt that when you hit it, you can perform a finisher on them to really brutalize them. I mean, look at what you can do to the Mist. It really makes me hyped to fight more of these bosses, to see how the dynamic flow of these fights go, what you can do to learn how to fight against them, and how you can finish them off. Again, this being a smaller game, it definitely shines through how they could spend more time making bigger, better, more polished, and less repetitive boss fights to go up against. All for the reward of getting zombie powers and improving on them. That is making these fights even more rewarding and better. My only gripe with the the powers is that I hope they add more than what I saw. Something more in line with the final product of the Hunter in Dying Light's Be the Zombie mode. I really want them to go ham with Kyle Crane and give him a lot of the abilities of that player versus player kind of zombie, like being able to spit shit and more. And one of my fellow YouTubers, I think it was Oni Zombies, suggested that we should have the ability to pick up zombies by their leg and throw them or hit other zombies with them. It made me think of that scene from King Kong X Godzilla the New Empire. That would be amazing to be able to do. But from what we got so far, it will still definitely be rewarding to get all these beast points. Now that's the end of some of these spoilers, if you can consider them that. The main storyline is the light and fluffy velvet cake, with the additional quests being a sugary, bloody icing that isn't too heavy on the taste buds. Just from the 2 side quests that I played, I can already tell you that the shorter time with the total runtime of this game will be much more engaging and funner than before. I talked to one of the devs about how cool one of these side quests were, and that he said that when he joined after Dying Light 2 was released, that he wanted to avoid boring fetch quests, kind of like retrieving 10 different books or getting random items mindlessly, and that the goal was to make each side quest something to remember more than something to dread to slog through to get to 100% in this game. I won't get into heavy spoilers, but the mission where you go help a distant son find his mentally slipping father by going into a bat cave, that honestly was my favorite out of everything I played narratively in the event outside of the Mist boss fight. Hell, we even have this shorter quest line where you investigate some murders, and it seems like it only leads into a bigger rabbit hole of somebody out there and a mystery beyond the main story. It's really cool to see where these side quests and what they can be are going. And I mean, it's all encapsulated with a soundtrack that is just mwah, always hitting you at the core of your soul. That main theme, A Changed Man by Olivier Deriviere, sorry if I butchered her name, I'm a Texan and we get shit wrong all the time, but this music is just a great reimagining of the original theme from Dying Light that I feel really shows the transformation of Crane and the world in general. It just has this feeling to it. Genuinely, to me, it feels like hearing the 28 Days Later theme all over again, you know, in the house in a heartbeat, especially that breakdown. Let's hear it. Desperation, hopelessness, and intensity into a fucked world. And you know what? The chase music too is beyond incredible, and man, your eardrums are gonna be popping one off when they hear it. It's all just so good. No joke, I'm betting this is going to be my favorite of the franchise just for how rich it feels to wander in. Most, if not all, elements of the franchise are firing off on all cylinders. It's beautiful to look at. It's awesome to run through and explore, to kill, to do so much. Yes, I did state there are a few things that I feel like are omitted or should be changed, but keep this in mind. Techland has been pretty damn good about player feedback with how much they added to Dying Light 2 post-release. So I am sure the launch of this game will be spectacular and will only get better with time. To me, from what I played so far, it's going to be the best zombie game in quite a while. I can't wait to return to Castor Woods to delve into the mysterious environment, discover more about the Baron's insane plot, if this is going to be a collision of Dying Light 1 and 2's worlds. What kind of Easter eggs lie in wait, as lead game designer Timon Smektala stated, are in abundance, but well hidden. And if we can ever find a mascot outfit of Bober the Beaver or a zombie Bober encounter, I want so much, and I'm looking forward to so much. So you can look forward to their next big release when Dying Light the Beast releases August 22nd. Wait, no, they postponed it to September 19th to work on feedback they have gotten from us. Damn, dude, they're really hearing everyone out and making sure this launch is more polished and avoiding the whole game industry standard of we'll fix it with an update post-launch and the rocky launch of Dying Light 2 on that note. I know for a fact that they have their ears and eyes open, as when I brought up some of these points in person and suggestions for the powers, the devs, creative team, and more were sitting there like, write that down, write that down! I know their heart and passion are in the right place. If we have to wait a few more weeks for them to sharpen things here and there, add some more details and more, well, it'll be worth it in the long run. As Shigeru Miyamoto once put it, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. Big thank you to Powell, Timon, and everyone at Techland for having me and Rhinosaurus Rex out to enjoy the game and hear us out and see the sights. What do you think about Dying Light the Beast? What are you looking forward to the most? What do you want to see? Let us know down in the comments. Thank you for watching and checking out my thoughts on the game. Consider chipping in to help out with the channel by becoming a YouTube channel member or Patreon patron to be featured on this list here and see future videos up to a week early. Also, support us by heading to GamerSupps and using my code WOW at checkout for 10% off your order, link in the description below. If we get enough sales, we can get some Left 4 Dead inspired drinks and waifu cups. Until next time, I'm Zach S, aka Wow Such Gaming. Never forget to stay happy, stay healthy, stay alive, and most importantly, stay wow.